Hi guys, so as promised, I'm going to do a tutorial with a live model. This would be the highlighted mama. This is my mom, Kelsey. And I decided to do a little bit of a bit different before and after when we did the curl video, primarily because she is someone who wears her hair straight. What would you say, Mom, like 90% of the time?
Over 90% of the time, yeah.
So she normally wears her hair straight, but every once in a while she likes to wear it curly. So this will kind of be some helpful tips and tricks for everyone if you like to kind of play around with your texture and have it two different ways. You can see here how I revitalize curls, and even if you like to wear your hair curly, it's still a solid good technique. So this is just how she looks right now, and then we'll get her shampooed, and then when we come back, I'll first go over all the products that we're going to use and how we're using them, and then I'll do the actual hands-on demo so everyone can see.
So I wanted to make this tutorial because when I rewatched my series, I got a little wordy and a little mushed mouth. So hopefully this can kind of help clarify and clear up some details if it wasn't completely explained in the previous video series. The other thing is, you guys may be asking why I'm not specifically recommending a product brand. I think if any of you follow me enough, you know that I love L'Oreal Professionnel, Kerastase, Oribe, and IGK. Those are my top right now. And they're not suitable for everyone's price point. So I'm not ever giving specific brands because I want to make sure that I'm not shaming anyone or disqualifying anyone regardless of their financial restrictions. So that's kind of that. I'll be showing the products that I'm using today and give you an idea, but ultimately I just want to educate you on what different products do and what kind they are so you can make the best decision for yourself. So to recap the specific products we're using, we are going to be using the L'Oreal Professionnel Nutifier. This is just a really cleansing and deep cleaning shampoo, especially it's also really nutritive, hence the cocoa oil. So although she's gonna get pretty clean with this, it's not going to dry her curls out. Then we are going into the Bougie conditioner from IGK. That's what it looks like. This one's really deeply hydrating. Again, because we live in a desert, that's always the safest route for us to go. So once you shampooed and conditioned with that, then I'm going to apply a little bit of the Frizz Dismiss by Redken. And this is just gonna help, again, this is a leave-in, it's a cream base. It's just gonna help kind of control the frizziness and while I'm sculpting and moving the curls. And then as far as when we really get into styling, I'm going to be using the mousse because I said that I love mousse. This is Hollywood Waves by Techniart or L'Oreal Professionnel, and this is the Spiral Queen. So this one seems to be a little bit harder to find, but I love it. It's a great mousse. And then for our polishers and finishers, Suavecita, I'm going to be using just a tiny bit of the pomade for anything that needs to control, and maybe a little bit hairspray. I'm not quite sure if we're going to use this or not, but we'll see. Okay, so she is freshly washed, and as you can see, she has all this texture and all this hair that she gave none of it to me. So the first thing I'm going to do, because her hair can support this, and I know it because of how her curls are, is I'm going to take a white tooth comb and just kind of comb through it and break it up. If you are someone who can't do that, if you put that type of tension on your hair, just skip this step. It's not that big of a deal. So starting from the ends and working up, we are going to just kind of comb everything out. She moves her head that dramatically again, she might get hit. Nothing unusual.
So I wanted to see, yeah, that's about where I want it. I can also start to play with it, zhuzh the curls up a little bit and see. First product I'm going to put in is the Frizz Dismiss. This is the Redken product. For her hair, I'm going to put in about that much. So a decent amount. Like I was saying, like in one of my videos, when you're playing with product, figure out how much you need by pushing the boundaries. I've pushed the boundaries with leave-ins. I'm pretty confident on my measuring skills. So I emulsified it really well, and I'm going to start just scrunching it back into the hair. Smells good.
It does smell good.
So I can already tell her top hair is taking a little bit of a beating, and that's just because she straightens it so much. So not too worried about it. I think we'll be able to boost it back up. Let me take the towel away. And now that that's in there and I feel it's really worked in and it feels nice and coated, I'm going to apply the mousse. So with the mousse, you make sure you shake it. Get everything from the bottom to the top of the can, so sometimes even upside down, one of those. And then
I didn't know that.
And then I'm gonna say about that much for her hair. And that seems like a ton. I know people are probably starting to panic, but the whole thing with mousse is you don't break it down. So I'm just gonna split it in half, and I'm gonna place it into the hair, and then I'm going to scrunch. And the whole point of this is to make sure that the mousse doesn't break down to a gel before you can work it into the hair. So it's a little tricky at first to figure out how that works. But once you start playing with it, you'll see the product is breaking down fairly nicely. There's not a bunch of clumpy spots in the hair or anything like that that I would be concerned about. Now again, if you are someone who can support a wide tooth comb at this time, you are more than welcome to, if that makes you feel comfortable for getting all your product out, but it's really up to you. So a thing to note then now, so I've laid in basically my 2 base styling products. So what I'm looking for, if you're people who like to air dry, you need to make sure that how it looks as you start this process is where you want it to dry in. So if you're seeing any spots that need to be reassessed, go ahead and work them now, because they don't miraculously change when they dry. They shrink a little bit, but not a ton. So just make sure that you're not pulling through or putting a lot of tension on it, but you're more just working with the natural texture. And so when it does dry, you're happy with where it dries to. But because I'm going to use a diffuser and we are going to have fun, I'm going to show you another different method to bringing curls out. So here I'm just kind of loosely splitting the hair, not perfect sections. And then I'm going to start wrapping the hair around my finger. And really, I'm letting the curl tell me where it wants to go, so I'm not forcing it in any specific way. I'm not taking really small sections or anything like that. I'm just kind of working with it and boosting with it so I can start to see them forming. This is a pretty old school method. A lot of stylists utilize it. It's a great one. So you just kind of pull. You want to be gentle about this. Your whole goal is to not get pieces super straight. You just want them to kind of form and the curl to curl back in on itself. And especially if you're someone who likes to wear their hair straight, this is probably going to be the easiest method for you to really start bringing out those curls and intensifying them. Or if you're someone who wants to start converting into being curly, this is going to be a nice way to help you achieve that while you're in that kind of interim. So I am going to dry her because she will kill me if I send her out wet. So I'll show you guys
Absolutely true.
how to use the diffuser, or some tips and tricks for it. So there's a couple different ways of doing it. So I'll show you a couple different ways. So the first method that I'll kind of just show is the tried and true, where you just pick hair up, you bring it in, and you set your diffuser on top of it. This method is wonderful, although I tend to just be a little bit too impatient naturally. So what I'm going to do is bring some of these sections up, and then I'm going to take my duckbill clips and kind of just place them there. So that way it tends to do a lot of the work for me. And that will help build volume without it being too kind of crazy 80s. You can do this all around the head. I'm just going to do this more through the crown area, because that really seems to be, right now, as you can tell, where she's not getting a lot of curl just normally. and where I want some height to come into. And the reason I do that is so that way I don't have to hold it. So when you start your diffusing, remember high heat, low speed. This is a Speed Freak blow dryer, so I am not going to have it cranked all the way because it gets real hot. So play around with that too. If you've got a blow dryer that is really, really hot or a Pro Series, you may even want to do just the middle. My outline. If it gets too hot, let me know. So what I'm doing right here when I'm just holding it is letting the heat work for me and the blow dryer, so that way I'm not constantly moving it or doing anything that would just start the hair to get really roughed up or just kind of going for broke and frying the hair and getting it super frizzy. Welcome back to how I'm gonna kill my mom for not listening. So once I started getting in through the top, I was just doing the exact same thing, letting the clips work for me, swapping between hot and cold air and things like that. I think they're just about ready. So right now I'm gonna pull my clips out. I know there's another one hiding. Gonna kind of just move it around a little bit. And then it still feels on the damp side, too damp right here. So this is where I'm gonna focus my attention, right in the crown area. So this is to kind of show you guys the progress we've been making thus far. So it's still a little damp, but we're bringing out all the natural texture and everything like that. That's the whole goal. I expected the pieces on top to not curl quite as well as those like underneath or on the sides. So it's just a matter of working with it. And then from here, we're going to kind of just be polishing up the style and showing you guys how to tame frizz and then working with those expectation levels. So now that I've got it pretty much dry and about where we want to, and it's looking curly. So again, when you started examining every single little thing, you started noticing flaws. So when you're working with curls or anything really organic, one of the biggest things you want to kind of keep in mind is having your expectations be reasonable enough. So you may not get crazy ringlets universally, but a lot of people don't have them naturally. And those who do probably hate them. So this is what we're working with. So what I put on my hands is the Suavecita Pomade. I just kind of take it on the back of my knuckle, especially because I've got these nails. And I'm not gouging into it, just getting a little bit on the back of my finger so that way I can emulsify it and then have it so it's barely any product. And then from there, I'm going to pick out individual pieces and I'm going to start shaping them. Anytime you're in a scenario where you know you're going straight to curly or things like that, again, Mom only wears her hair curly when I make her for videos, then you can expect that it's not gonna all curl super uniform. And I started with a little amount and I'm just going to keep adding more until I get where I want versus going too much on the pomade and then being in a situation where I'm unhappy. And ultimately what this will do is it'll help kind of just work as an anti-humectant, keep her curls intact. It's not super gummy, so I'm not too worried about her not being able to wear this for a couple days, even though she probably won't.
I will. As long as you do it and I don't do it, I'll wear it a couple of days.
And here's another thing. So I cut her on an A line. So I'm just trying to play with where I normally would part her because I don't cut her to wear her hair curly. I cut it so she can wear it straight and really severe. So just kind of playing around with that and mixing that up. Sheena, can you go somewhere else, please? Once we start looking more polished, I think that's about good. The big thing with curls is that you're probably always going to have just a little bit of some sort of texture or frizz, and that's fine. You're just trying to tame it. I know that if I start really working with these too much and playing with them, it's going to actually be counterproductive and I'm just going to end up in a bigger problem. So I wasn't sure if I was going to use hairspray, but I'm going to, just because I'd still like a little bit more height right back here. So what I'm gonna do is kind of just pick it up, not disrupting everything. I'm gonna give it a couple sprays and then I'm gonna let it sit. Hairspray doesn't work unless it can dry. So know that if you're putting hairspray in and you're letting it fall, it's not gonna hold until it's dry. These videos all day long and she never comes over the second we're filming something. She's like, let me lick the floor for 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you like your bang, Mom? Up or down?
Up a little bit.
A little ode to the 80s.
That's right. Nothing wrong with the 80s.
All right, and here is our finished product. So as you can tell, it's still texture. There's still some movement. The curls are coming out. Not everything is super, super crazy polished or crazy inorganic, but definitely formed enough. And also keep in mind too that not everything is completely dry. So even more as she air dries naturally, everything will contract a little bit and then it'll kind of tame itself a little bit more. And there you guys go. That's the tutorial portion. Looking back, probably should have worn a different outfit, but here we are. That I hope helped a lot of people figure out kind of how to work with hair, expectation levels, things like that. I knew going into it her hair wasn't going to be perfect, which is partially one of the reasons I chose her as my model, so that way you can kind of see what the progression actually is and what to expect when you're doing these things. As always, if you have a stylist that you love or you find one, listen to them, let them guide you, not some rando on the internet, me. And if you have any more questions or comments, go ahead and leave them here or on TikTok. And as always, I will do my best to find them and do my best to answer them.